By the end of this video, you'll be able to identify your exact attachment style, understand the nervous system mechanism driving it, and walk away with specific steps to move toward what's called earned security, even if your pattern was set decades ago. This isn't a personality quiz, it's the actual psychology behind why you love the way you do, and it's more fixable than you think. Attachment theory comes from psychologist John Bowlby and researcher Mary Ainsworth, who studied how infants respond when a caregiver leaves and returns. What they found wasn't just about childhood, it maps almost perfectly onto how adults behave in romantic relationships decades later. There are 4 attachment styles: secure, comfortable with closeness, and comfortable with independence. Doesn't panic when a partner needs space. Doesn't shut down when a partner wants closeness. Anxious, craves closeness, reads distance as a threat, often over-monitors the relationship for signs of rejection. Avoidant, values independence to the point of discomfort with closeness, reads intimacy as a loss of self, tends to withdraw when things intensify. Disorganized, sometimes called fearful avoidant, wants closeness and fears it at the same time, often the result of a caregiver who is both a source of comfort and a source of fear. Roughly half of adults test as securely attached. The other half falls somewhere across anxious, avoidant, or disorganized. And most people have never been told why they default to their specific pattern. If you're anxiously attached, this will sound familiar. You replay conversations looking for signs something's wrong. You feel a small alarm when a text takes longer than usual to arrive. You might find yourself needing repeated reassurance, not because you don't trust your partner, but because your nervous system doesn't fully believe the relationship is safe until you check. Here's the physiological piece most explanations skip. In anxious attachment, the brain's threat detection system, specifically the amygdala, has an unusually low threshold for registering relational danger. Cortisol, your primary stress hormone, spikes in response to ambiguous signals, silence, a delayed reply, a neutral tone, the same way it would spike in response to actual danger. Your body isn't overreacting on purpose. It's running a threat detection setting that was calibrated early, often by an experience where connection felt inconsistent or conditional. That's the piece that actually helps in practice. The anxiety is not information about your current relationship. It's information about your nervous system's calibration, which means the fix isn't finding a partner who never gives you any reason to worry. That's not sustainable for anyone. The fix is teaching your nervous system a different threshold. Practical step. The next time you feel that spike, the urge to check, to text again, to ask, "Are we okay?" Try a 90-second pause before acting. Cortisol-driven urges physiologically peak and begin to subside within about 90 seconds if you don't feed them with an action. Breathe slowly, name the sensation out loud even just to yourself. This is the anxious alarm, not new information, and then decide after the 90 seconds whether you still want to reach out. Most of the time, the urgency will have measurably dropped. If you're avoidantly attached, closeness itself can start to feel like pressure. You might notice you pull away right when a relationship starts to get serious. You value your independence intensely, sometimes to the point where needing someone feels like losing part of yourself. From the outside, this can look like not caring. From the inside, it often feels like self-preservation. The physiological piece. Avoidant attachment is also a nervous system response, just triggered by the opposite stimulus. Where the anxious nervous system treats distance as danger, the avoidant nervous system treats closeness and dependency as danger, often because early experiences taught that needing someone led to disappointment, intrusion, or loss of autonomy. The deactivating strategies, going quiet, needing space, focusing on flaws in the relationship right when it intensifies, aren't conscious choices. They're the nervous system's way of down-regulating an intimacy response that's been coded as overwhelming. Here's what tends to surprise people. Avoidantly attached partners often feel the loss just as intensely as anyone else. They just process it alone, after the fact, rather than in the moment with the other person. That's not indifference. That's a nervous system that learned, early, that processing need out loud wasn't safe. Practical step. If you're avoidant, The goal isn't to force constant closeness. That will just trigger bigger withdrawal. It's building tolerance in small doses. When you notice the urge to create distance, try naming it internally without acting on it immediately. I'm having the urge to pull back. That doesn't mean I have to. Staying in the room for even 5 more minutes during a moment of discomfort, repeated over time, is what actually recalibrates the threat response. If you've watched this channel's shorts on this topic, you already know where this is going. Anxious and avoidant partners are drawn to each other constantly, and it's not a coincidence. The anxious partner's pursuit activates the avoidant partner's withdrawal. The avoidant partner's withdrawal activates the anxious partner's pursuit. Each person's coping mechanism is, unintentionally, the exact thing that triggers the other person's deepest fear. It's not chemistry. It's two nervous systems reacting to each other's threat response in real time. And without outside intervention, the loop tends to intensify rather than resolve on its own. There's a fourth pattern worth naming, even briefly: disorganized attachment. This is the person who wants closeness and is afraid of it at the same time. Often the result of a caregiver who was, at different times, both a source of comfort and a source of fear. Unlike anxious or avoidant attachment, there's no single consistent strategy. The nervous system oscillates between pursuing and retreating, sometimes within the same conversation. If this sounds like you, the good news is the same underlying mechanism applies. It's a learned calibration, not a fixed identity. None of these patterns are personality flaws, they're adaptations. Attachment style forms in the first few years of life based on how consistently a caregiver responded to a child's needs. A caregiver who reliably responded to distress with comfort tends to raise a securely attached child. The nervous system learns, my needs get met, connection is safe. A caregiver who is inconsistent, warm sometimes, unavailable other times, tends to produce anxious attachment. The child's nervous system learns to stay hypervigilant because connection was unpredictable. A caregiver who was consistently unavailable or who discouraged emotional expression tends to produce avoidant attachment. The nervous system learns that needing anyone reliably leads to disappointment, so it stops registering the need as strongly. This matters because it reframes the whole conversation. Your attachment style was the most adaptive response available to you at the time. It made sense given the information your nervous system had. That doesn't mean it still serves you now. Here's the part most content on this topic skips entirely. Attachment style is not fixed. Researchers call the process of shifting towards security earned secure attachment, and there's real evidence it happens. Through consistent corrective experiences, either in a relationship with a securely behaving partner, in therapy, or through deliberate self-regulation practice. Concretely, here's what that looks like for each style. If you're anxious, the work is building your own capacity to self-soothe before seeking reassurance from someone else. The 90-second pause from earlier, journaling the specific fear instead of texting it, and gradually testing whether the relationship survives moments of uncertainty without you needing to close the gap immediately. If you're avoidant, the work is practicing staying present during discomfort in small, deliberately chosen doses, naming the urge to withdraw without obeying it every time, and letting a partner see a need you have, even in a small, low-stakes way, to build evidence that being needed doesn't always lead to loss of self. If you're in the anxious-avoidant dynamic together, the most effective shift usually isn't for one partner to fix the other. It's each person doing their own regulation work in parallel, so the push-pull loop has less fuel on both sides. None of this requires waiting for your nervous system to magically recalibrate on its own. Every rep, every time you tolerate discomfort instead of automatically reacting to it, is a small deposit toward a nervous system that believes connection can be safe. Before we close, a quick gut check. If you tend to feel the relationship isn't real until you get reassurance, that's anxious leaning. If you feel your sense of self shrinking the closer someone gets, that's avoidant leaning. If both show up depending on the day, that's closer to disorganized. And if none of this felt urgent while watching, that's a good sign you're closer to secure than you thought. None of these are life sentences, they're starting points. If any part of this explained a pattern in your life, or someone else's, that's exactly the kind of insight this channel is built around. Subscribe to better understand the architecture of your personality. And I want to know, which style did you see yourself in? Tell me in the comments, I read all of them.